Hey everybody, so what we're going to go over today is the employer paid close that we've been teaching and rolling out in Oklahoma. What we'll be going through is really the same presentation you're familiar with one edit kind of at the end that sets up the employer paid using the well card and the accident. I'm going to go through it with the accident plan, but the brilliant part about this is anything that's a guaranteed issue or an easy underwriting type product, you can actually use it the exact same way. You just have to do a little bit different math, which I'll go through at the end. So in order to do this, you just need your standard DM brochure. You're going to need a well card testimonial or just one of the well card pieces that we would give away at enrollment. And then one of the accident folders. We're going to quote the premier plan or the preferred plan. And that's right here. It looks like this. You don't need to go over the whole thing. What you'll see on the inside flap is an illustration of Olivia's benefits for being in a car accident. So we're going to use that as an illustration for what we're going to call the Bump It, Bruise It, Break It program does for individuals who use this plan. So from there, we'll get started. Hey Joel, thanks for meeting with me again today. I took the stuff we went over last week back to our team and put something together I think is going to address really the enrollment hassle that you feel you have each year, and also kind of that out-of-pocket exposure. And if somebody had a health event, could they afford to go to the doctor?
Okay.
Right. So I think I've got something for both of those. Before we get into the specifics, I wanted to go over real quick kind of Colonial Life as a company, who we are.
Okay.
So we were founded in 1939. We now cover more than 4 million Americans and their families. We have over $1 billion in in-force premium. Us with our parent company, Unum, create a Fortune 500 company. None of that's really to brag at all. It's really just to let you know that we're a reputable company that's been doing what we've been doing for a while. And then also, especially for something like insurance, if you bring in any outside vendor, you're going to want to know they can deliver on what they say they can, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So especially on the claim side, we can back up any claims that for any policies you guys bring out.
Great.
Right. And so what separates Colonial in the marketplace from our competitors is we're essentially three companies in one. First, we're a benefits communication company. Do you know that about 80% of all Americans, whether they pay for them or their employer pays for them or wherever they get them from, don't fully understand the insurance they have in place?
Well, that's not surprising given our processes. So.
Right.
Sure.
Right. So what we have are actually certified benefits counselors that can actually communicate and educate on what it is that they already have in place, while also talking about what we bring to the table, which I'll get to here in just a second.
Okay.
So that kind of ties into that flexible enrollment option. So you're used to dealing with a lot of paperwork, you're faxing stuff back to your health insurance carrier and all that kind of stuff, right? What we can actually do is digitize all of that, right? So that they can sit down, sign up for what they want, learn about what they already have, how those things work together, and ask somebody live in person questions to get answers to pretty much on the spot.
That's good.
Right? Mm-hmm. Does that sound like that would address kind of your enrollment hassle?
Oh, it would definitely be an improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. And so really, lastly, we're an insurance company. So I'll get to what we're bringing to the table here in just a moment, but that's really the last thing we do. We want to solve that benefits communication and that enrollment process for you here.
Okay.
So the next thing I want to talk about is our wheel. We call this really our challenge wheel. It kind of touches on problems that employers and employees tend to face. So if you'll follow along with me here, if you're like most employers that I work with, wages are your number one expense year after year, right?
No doubt.
Yeah. If you don't pay them, they don't show up.
No, they don't. They don't show up at all.
Right. And sometimes even if you do pay them, they still don't show up.
That's for sure.
Yeah. And so tied right along with that is your required benefits. So you got to pay FICA matching taxes on every dollar of payroll that you pay out. You got to pay unemployment. You got to pay workers' comp. You got to pay just your general business liability insurance just to even have a place for your employees to work, right?
Yeah, they're not aware of all that.
Exactly. Most of them aren't. But so for you, a $10 an hour employee really costs more than $10 an hour, right?
That's way more.
Yeah, exactly.
2.5 times.
Exactly. Now, on average, yeah, it's between 2 and 3 times. So what we can do is what we put in place is actually going to help minimize some of that cost for you and reduce some of that cost. It's not going to save you thousands of dollars, right? But every little bit in the right direction helps, right?
Sure. Sounds good.
Cool. And so really one of the next biggest expenses that employers tend to look at each year is their health and medical insurance. Is that true here?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, probably number 2 or 3 on your bottom line, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned you had to raise that deductible, different things like that, and shift the out-of-pocket exposure just to maintain costs for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's actually really common nowadays, unfortunately. Health insurance is essentially like a block of Swiss cheese now. There's holes in it with rising deductibles. You've got things that are just not covered anymore. You see people carving out the pharmacy drug benefits completely separately from their health insurance plan. And so it's all confusing, and you're not paying any less for it.
No, there's not.
right? That's really most people's experience. And so take your mind off of that for a second. We're not your health insurance.
Okay.
What we are actually here to do is really insure your employees' income. We do a great job of insuring our cars, our health, and we're even our phones now.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
People gladly pay insurance on their phone so they can get a new one if they break it.
Yeah,
right.
Everything. Yeah.
But as Americans, we tend to do a really poor job of insuring the thing that allows us to have all of those things, which is our income.
That makes sense.
Right. So that's really what we're here to protect.
Okay.
About 72% of all bankruptcies in the United States over the last several years have been related to medical debt and medical situations.
Yeah.
Is that surprising?
No, it's not.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that happens so much, it's not surprising anymore. Right. It's almost just expected.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Right?
It's true.
But what is crazy to me is that about 78% of those people who filed bankruptcy due to medical bills had major medical insurance in place. Is that surprising?
That part is very surprising.
Why would you think that is?
Well, it's got to be because, I mean, you talked about the out-of-pockets, and we talked last week. Most of my people can't afford a $3,000 deductible. They don't have it.
Right. But that's what we're here to do, is put money back in your employees' paychecks. So one, because most of the time people can figure out how to eventually pay the doctor, but they also still need to keep lunch money for the kids. They still need to make a house payment. Still need to make a car payment. The bank doesn't stop asking for that if you get hurt, right?
No, that's very much true.
Yeah. So that's really what we're here to do.
Okay.
So the next piece of what we do is survivor benefits. That's life insurance, which you're probably familiar with. It's actually the world's biggest misnomer. It's actually death insurance.
Yes, it is.
Yep. And so about 40% of Americans either don't have any or don't have enough life insurance. Okay. So we can put something in place for them to figure out what they need.
Yeah, perfect.
And then the next piece is catastrophic illness. So this is going to touch mainly on the big three. So heart attack, cancer, and stroke. Everybody knows somebody who's been affected by one of those.
That's true.
My stepdad's had a heart attack and my grandma's had cancer, right? The latest statistics are showing that about 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women will experience cancer in some form in their lifetime.
Yeah, that is true. Everybody
Right.
knows somebody.
Exactly. So we can put something in place to help deal with the costs associated with those.
Okay.
So the thing that came to mind specifically when I was looking at that information were 2 main things that are going to help you guys out, I think. So the first is our Well Card Savings Program. This is kind of like GoodRx on steroids because it does a lot more than just prescription drugs.
Okay.
So it's going to touch on everything from, they've added pet care, right? A lot of people are buying pet insurance nowadays. This is going to help with some of those types of things as well.
Okay.
But for the humans that you employ, it's also going to help them save on root canals. We've had people save over $800 on root canals, which is one of the major dental experiences most people have in their life. And we had a client that actually used this. They had a child on chronic medication. And they saved, I think, about $300 a month with the exact same medication and the exact same dosage, exact same amount of pills in each fill, and went to the exact same pharmacist.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah,
just
big.
presenting this card. The only thing that changed was they used this card.
That's big.
Yeah. And it's also going to help save some money on x-rays, MRIs, different things like that. I think the coolest thing with this is the telemedicine benefit that's built in. So you're probably familiar. It's kind of a pretty popular thing now, telemedicine. So what this can actually do is keep your employees from having to go sit for an hour or more at a doctor's office just for them to officially diagnose them with the flu. Right?
Yes.
Most people know when they've got the flu. We just have to have a doctor tell us if we want the good stuff.
Especially the guys that work here ain't going to the doctor.
Exactly. Yeah, but if they could just pull it up on their phone, get diagnosed to go get their medicine, that's probably a little more appealing than going to the doctor. Yeah. I know how guys are. I get it. Yeah, I don't go to the doctor either. And so this is actually going to give that option to them to Skype into a board-certified doctor to prescribe them the medicine they need.
Okay.
How much would you think something like this, just curious, would cost your employees per month? Or what it would cost you to offer your employees each month?
$50, $60, $40, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
I would think.
You'd probably think that based on everything that it can do. But how would you feel if I told you we could do this for your employees at no cost?
I'd be interested to know how that is. I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah, perfect. We'll talk about what that would look like to get it in the hands of your employees in just a moment. Okay. I want to go over the other thing that I thought would make sense.
Okay.
You just said it as well. We talked about it last week. If one of your employees had to come up with $3,000 because they got hurt, it's going to leave them in a tough spot. Right? So one of the really common ways that kind of situation happens is just an unexpected injury. Right? My mom tore her ACL dancing at my uncle's wedding. Right? So it's things like that you can't possibly predict.
Right.
Right? But what I want to talk about is our Bump It, Bruise It, Break It program that we have. So we can do this for each of your employees. But a quick kind of overview here. So Olivia, in this example, was in a car accident. So she took an ambulance ride, so she got $200. She got $250 for having an accidental injury due to an automobile accident. I'm not going to go complete line item by line item, but the other big ticket things here are hospital admission. So she received $1,000 just for being admitted to the hospital. And then in this example, they had a thigh fracture that required surgical repair. So she got another $4,400. And then the last piece here that I'll point out is the physical therapy. So 8 days of physical therapy to kind of rehab the leg and get her up and going. It paid her $280 for all of that. So what you can see is this is actually going to touch on the immediate response to go get treatment, the type of treatment they got, and then also the follow-up care to get better, right? Yeah. So in total, all of that paid out to Olivia was $7,965. Didn't matter if she was at fault in the accident, what hospital she went to, what doctor was there, what network that hospital was in. This is the amount that she got.
That's right. More than the deductible.
Right.
That'd cover it.
Right, because remember, we're talking about protecting their income, right? So if you got that additional roughly $4,000 after the deductible to keep paying their house payment, keep paying the car payment, keep lunch money for the kids. Yeah. Those types of things that are always going to be costs.
Yeah, that's good.
Right? So how much would you think something like this would cost your employees on a weekly basis or a monthly basis?
Probably like the other one, another $40, $50 a month.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people think that, but this is actually something we can do for your employees for $4.37 per week, so round it up to about $17.
Wow.
Per month.
That's really good.
Awesome. So employers are taking care of this one of two ways. They're either paying for this for their employees themselves, which would equal about giving them about an 11 cents an hour raise.
Okay. Yeah, that's
right?
Not much, yeah.
Right. If you said, hey guys, I'm going to give you an extra 11 cents an hour, they'd probably go, okay. Right?
Yep.
But if you went, hey, I'm going to pay for this policy for you, that gets a little more attention. Right?
Yeah, it does.
So the other way that they're taking care of it is they'll just make it available for their employees to sign up on their own. Which do you think makes the most sense for you and your employees?
I mean, that's not a big expense on top of what we're paying anyways.
Sure.
They probably would appreciate something. I'd probably look at picking that up for them.
Okay, so perfect. So all that we'll need to get started is really if you have your tax ID number handy, I'll put that in. I'm going to start filling out some paperwork. It's really just to let our home office know that we're working together.
Okay.
And so we'll get that started. What implementation looks like for the well card and for this, as well as anything else that they may be interested in signing up for, is what we're going to do is we're actually going to schedule a group meeting. At that group meeting, we're going to go over kind of a quick version of what we just did. It usually takes about 7 minutes. So that they have context, and we're also going to make sure they get rates, they have plan descriptions, they have some FAQs, and they also know what the next step is going to be, right? When would make sense to do that group meeting for your employees?
I think Tuesday might not be a bad day.
Okay, so Tuesday morning or afternoon?
You said just 7 minutes, right?
Yeah, 7 minutes is usually all it takes unless somebody gets real chatty.
No, I like the morning.
Okay.
That's good, yeah.
Okay, so would 9 o'clock work for you Tuesday morning?
Can you do 8:30?
Yeah, we can do 8:30.
Let's do 8:30.
Okay, so 8:30, is there just going to be one group?
I'm glad you said that. No, it's two different. We've got two different buildings. It might be easier if we did them in two separate. I mean, can you do two meetings?
Yeah. Do you need them to happen simultaneously, like at the exact same time, or?
No, they'd have to be two separate times because we have.
Sure.
Yeah, if we could do like 8:30 and maybe at 10:30, that might be good.
Okay. So 8:30 at one location, 10:30 at the other. Okay. Yeah, we can do that. So we'll have somebody available to go over that and make sure both groups get the same education and all the same information they need. So what they can do with that information is they're actually going to take it home if they need to run it by a spouse or whomever really makes the decisions.
Sure.
And then they'll be ready to come down and they have some context for the conversation. That's what we're going to do. So we'll have that group meeting next Tuesday. Would next Thursday be a bad day to get started on the actual one-on-one sessions? Like I said, that benefits counselor that we have is going to sit down. They're going to be able to explain to them what you're already bringing to the table, and then also get them signed up for this stuff that you're purchasing for them, get them signed up for the well card, and then also go through anything else that they may need. So would Thursday be a good day? It usually takes about 20 minutes per person.
20 minutes per person. Can you do both locations at the same time on Thursday?
Yeah, so you've got about 10 at each location, right? So what we can do is we can have one benefits counselor at each, and with 10 people at each, I think if we ran from 8:30 to 12 o'clock that Thursday, we should be able to see pretty much everybody. Now, if somebody's out sick or something like
Sure.
that, we can come back and pick them up another day. So I think we can do one at each location. Really get out of your hair in one day.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So the only thing we ask is that when you mention this to your employees, they're probably going to have questions. Just say we've got them coming in to do it, right? So we'll be there to explain everything, and then you might even get those people who say I'm not buying any more insurance, right? That's perfectly fine. We still want you to encourage them to sit down, because you mentioned with your health insurance as well that even the people who don't want it, they've got to sign.
Yeah, you've got
right.
to sign.
It's the exact same thing for us.
Okay.
Right. So it's going to keep everybody in compliance. That way they can't come back and say you never offered them something.
Right.
Right. So if we just stay consistent on that messaging, it's going to help us all work together and have a better partnership through this.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. Perfect. So all I need, like I said, is that tax ID number, and then I'll get this paperwork started. Most of it I can get off your business card, and then I'll just need a couple questions about your payroll.
Perfect. Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I tell you what, I think probably the better option for me might be just to offer it to them and see what they want.
Okay. Sure. You want people to be able to make their own decisions on it, it sounds
Yeah.
like.
And we're not in a position to add anything else financially.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you had to look at changing your plan.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll finish going through kind of the options that will be available to them.
Okay.
And then at the end, I'll talk about what implementation looks like, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
So we just talked about that bump it, bruise it, break it. The next piece I'll talk about is that cancer and critical illness. There's two separate policies here. So cancer policies are going to touch on everything from initial diagnosis to the continuing treatment that they may have going on. So chemotherapy, radiation, anti-nausea medication, reconstructive surgery. It's kind of like that bump it, bruise it, break it, but for cancer treatment.
I got you.
Right. So critical illness is a lump sum. So anywhere from $5,000 to $75,000 if they have a heart attack, stroke, organ failure, blindness, some of those kind of very critical and acute illnesses
Yeah,
that they
sure.
would have, right?
Okay.
Because if they have any of those, they're going to probably miss some serious time from work. And then also they're going to have all those same bills and the new medical bills, right?
Okay. Yeah.
These plans we can usually get in place for less than like $6 or $7 a week for your employees,
Oh, that's good.
right?
Okay.
For them to get all of those benefits.
Okay.
The next thing I think that is interesting for your company too is you mentioned you didn't have any dental insurance. I don't know if you've looked at dental insurance like with a traditional group carrier in the past, but if you have, you've probably found that you got to meet minimum participation requirements. You've got to pay for a portion of it sometimes. Whatever the case is, there's usually a lot more hassles. You got to look at renewals each year, right?
Yeah.
What's interesting about ours is it is a true individual dental PPO. And so what that means for you is that you don't have to worry about minimum participation, first of all, right? So let's say we sit down with each employee and yourself, and you're the only person who wants dental insurance,
Okay.
right? I don't think that'd be the case, but if that was, you would have your dental plan. So next up is disability insurance. Most people are familiar with what disability insurance is. So what this can do is replace up to 60% of an employee's income for up to 24 months. This is another plan we can put in place for between $5 and $10 a week, depending on the employee's needs and choices. And the next piece that I'll talk about is the hospital confinement indemnity. We call that medical bridge. And this is usually tailored towards an employer's health care plan. So you've got that $3,000 deductible. We've already talked about that would be hard for a single employee to meet
Yeah, it would.
in most of the cases. And so this is if somebody's admitted to the hospital for 20 or more hours, they'll get a set benefit, usually tied to that deductible.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So lastly, life insurance, which again, like I said, is really the world's biggest misnomer. It's actually death insurance. We offer term and whole. So whether they want to financially protect their spouse and cover their debts if they were to pass unexpectedly during their working years, or if they just want to start getting something in place to basically put them in the ground.
Okay.
Right. So we offer both of those solutions for your employees. What's interesting is they recently did a survey, and about 80% of Americans overestimate the cost of life insurance by about 3 times as much as it actually is. Right.
Okay.
So
Makes
this is
sense.
another thing we can start at a couple bucks a week, depending on their needs.
Okay.
We can put in place for them.
All right.
All right. So what implementation is going to look like from here is we're going to have a group meeting with each of your employees. It'll take about 7 minutes. We kind of do a mini version of what we just went through with you.
Okay.
Right. And we're going to hand out rates, packets with information, and then also have them sign up for that one-on-one benefits counselor time, which is also going to be where they sign up for anything here,
Okay.
and also get signed up for the well card that you think they're going to see value in.
Okay, good.
Right. So that's all going to be taken care of at that enrollment time. So when would make sense to do that group meeting so where we can get all of your employees together and we'll have somebody here to give them the information?
I mean, Tuesday mornings are good.
Okay.
I've got 2 different buildings.
Okay. Perfect. So 2 different buildings, do you want those to happen at the same time or do you want them to happen at different times for the group meeting?
If you could do like 8:30 and 10:30, that'd be good.
Okay, perfect. So I'll have somebody that can do both of those. And like I said, they'll have the packets there. At that meeting, we're also going to pass around a sign-up sheet for them to sign up for a time to sit down with the benefits counselor. I think it would probably make the most sense to start it on Thursday of that same week, of that morning.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation because that's going to give them time to process the information, take it back to their spouse, whoever the real decision maker is for these types of things, right? And kind of have a more informed conversation when they sit down with a benefits counselor with any questions, right?
Yep.
So would Thursday morning at 8:30 also be a good time to start that?
Yeah, 8:30 work?
Yeah.
And you have somebody, and I don't know, how do y'all do it?
So we can put somebody at both locations, or if you want everybody to come to a single location, it sounds like it's probably going to be easier for, frankly, everybody to just put one person at both of your locations. And with about 10 people at each location, if we started at 8:30, I'm pretty confident we could get everybody signed up by lunch that day.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, so we don't have to come back a whole bunch of times and start bugging you. So if somebody's out sick or something, we'll follow up and make sure they get a chance to sit down.
Okay.
Right. But I think 8:30 to 12, both of those days, one benefits counselor at each, I think we'll be good.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. Perfect. So you might hear this when you tell everybody we've got a group meeting and it's related to insurance. You're going to have people say, I don't want to sit down. We're just going to ask that you still have them sit down because, like you mentioned, you're used to with your health insurance is you got to run around and get people who don't want it to sign the declination. It's the exact same thing with us.
Okay.
Right. So you kind of know the drill on that
Yep.
one. It's going to protect you
It
from.
doesn't matter whether you want it or not. We
Exactly.
gotta be able to document it. It's what we had to do before.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so it's the exact same thing for us.
Okay.
So do that, and then also with the group meeting, have them sign up for a time. If we just stay consistent on that message, it's going to be smooth for everybody, and we don't have to keep bugging you with Johnny didn't sign up, right?
Yeah, for
and
sure.
and so I think that'll be good. So if you can just get your tax ID number, I'm going to start filling out the paperwork. It's just going to let our home office know that we're working together.
Okay.
And then I'll have a couple questions about your payroll situation,
Perfect.
just to clarify it.
Perfect. Sounds good.
All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
So to kind of wrap up everything we've seen here, so we've gone through the employer-paid script. We've gone through what happens if they don't decide to pay for it for their employees and they're just going to make it available. What you're going to need at this presentation is the same DM2 brochure that we already have been using, right? Anything with WellCard kind of information on it, we happen to have this one handy, so that's what we used. And then the product brochure of the product that you want to lead with for the employer paid close. This is the accident preferred plan. I think that's the one that makes the most sense for a lot of accounts because it's a guaranteed issue plan. You don't have to worry about any sort of underwriting kickbacks on it. So it just makes it easier. So the good thing with the employer paid though is especially for dental, accident, and that really those are the two I would probably lead with because it's so easily available for everybody is when you want to quote a product, you just quote it and then you divide that weekly rate by 40 and that's the cent per hour raise that they would be giving their employees. So it's really simple to transition this to different products if you want. So again, if you want to quote a different product, go to Quick Quote, build it out, get with your manager, get with me, get with Joel, whomever you feel comfortable asking for. So a couple tips on that one. In the setup, looking back to the discovery, it's really commonplace to talk about this doesn't cost you anything, blah, blah, blah. If we can take that verbiage out, anything resembling you don't have to pay for it, it's voluntary, any of that kind of stuff, if we can take that verbiage out, because then at the end you kind of contradict yourself when you ask them to pay for it. So don't shut the door on it. The other thing too, you may sometimes hear them go, well, can I just let them pay or can I just pay for whatever they choose to sign up? That's also perfectly fine. Just try to set a budget amount for that benefit bank and we can get that all set up in harmony. But the goal of what we're trying to do here is one, employer paid is going to drive premium total in an account, but also it's going to help solve working conditions, right? So what I found in my experience running through this is we get a lot less of, let me see if my employees are interested, or I don't think my employees are going to be interested because we've already got the employer to commit to buying something and getting his employees set up with something. So that kind of changes the conversation we're having, especially when they actually agree to pay for it. But then even if they say, well, I'll just let my employees pick and choose what they want, they've already seen the value of that enrollment process. So you've already solidified that for the most part. You just got to figure out dates and times. So that's really the employer paid close. It's going to, I think, make a huge difference in the territory. Good luck.